Ethan felt the ground tremble beneath his boots as he followed Liara deeper into the cavern. The pulsing lights grew brighter as they approached the strange stone platform in the center. Thin streams of water trickled across the floor from cracks above, flowing toward the lights as if drawn by some invisible force. Liara watched the ground carefully, her hand resting on the staff strapped to her back, ready to defend if needed. Ethan, however, was mesmerized by the sight before him. A large circular structure etched with symbols he didn't recognize glowed softly beneath the surface. It looked old, ancient even, but still very much alive. Energy hummed gently like the steady heartbeat of a slumbering beast. Liara stepped forward cautiously and placed a hand on the ground above the glowing circle. She flinched. It was warm to the touch. Ethan crouched beside her and studied the symbols. Most meant nothing to him, but a few shapes stood out. Straight lines, perfect angles, specific spacing. This was not random. This was manufactured. Human-like precision. He ran a scanner across the stone. His small display flickered, displaying faint readings. Titanium alloy detected. Composite material. Trace of nanostructure layering. His heart nearly stopped. "This isn't Thalen," Ethan whispered. "It's human." Liara looked at him with wide eyes. "Human? Your kind made this?" "Not me," Ethan said quickly. "But long ago, maybe. There were missions centuries back. Terraforming expeditions. Some succeeded. Some vanished." He touched the glowing stone again. "This is a terraforming relay. It controls atmospheric elements. Like weather. Like rain." Liara stared at the light beneath her fingers. Rain continued to drip from her armor. "Then the sky cried because of this?" she asked softly. "It's not crying," Ethan said gently. "It's restoring. Terraforming devices are programmed to bring planets back to life. If it reactivated, maybe it detected something. Maybe a trigger." Liara frowned. "Trigger? Like what?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Maybe vibrations, movement, heat, maybe even blood." Liara's eyes widened. "I was in the canyon above when the storm began. I climbed to see the stars. I slipped and cut my hand. My blood went into the cracks of the ground." Ethan exhaled slowly. "That could have been it." The machine detected biological material. It responded. Liara looked at him with awe and confusion. "Then I awakened it." "Not you?" "Maybe both of us," Ethan said. "My equipment could have sent signals through the ground too." The combination triggered a reset. Liara looked overwhelmed, but she did not panic. Instead, she took a slow breath and stood tall. "If this awakens the sky, then it must be controlled. If not, it may destroy us," Ethan nodded. "Terraforming systems are powerful. If left alone, they might create floods or hurricanes. It could reshape everything, good or bad. We need to access the core settings." Liara tilted her head.
"Can you?"
Ethan hesitated. "I can try." They moved around the platform, finding a slit in the stone that looked like a hatch. Ethan pried it open with effort, revealing a small panel of metallic keys and a dim interface. The language displayed was fragmented, half in English, half corrupted beyond recognition. He wiped water from the screen and squinted. "Climate control module locked," he read aloud. "Override authorization required." Liara stepped closer. Rainwater dripped onto the screen. "What does it mean?" "I need an access code," Ethan said. "Something the original team used. Can you guess it?" Ethan frowned. "Maybe." Terraforming teams often used basic code patterns tied to mission numbers or planet names. He tried a few standard entries. Error. 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 Liara watched silently. She did not understand human machines, but she could see the tension in Ethan's hands. He was nervous but determined. She respected that. Then Ethan paused. "Wait." He looked at Liara. "What do your people call this planet?" "Veros," she said. "And before your people came?" She hesitated. "Ancient texts called it Varash. Land before breath." Ethan entered a pattern. Varash E1, the screen paused. Then blinked green, override accepted. Liara let out a soft gasp. Ethan grinned with relief. "We're in." But the relief vanished quickly as the interface displayed a rapid list of active operations. Atmospheric conversion phase, 12% complete, Ethan read. Estimated full saturation cycle in 16 hours. Liara looked concerned. "Is that bad?" "If it continues uncontrolled," Ethan said slowly, "the entire planet could be covered in storms. Some gentle, some violent. Floods could destroy your settlements. Liara clenched her fists. Then we must stop it. Ethan hovered his hand over the shutdown command but paused. No. Stopping it completely might kill the process. The planet could return to being dry. That means no more rain, no water, no life, Liara blinked. Life? Rain isn't just water falling, Ethan explained gently. It feeds the land. Plants grow. Rivers form. Animals thrive. Worlds become green again. This planet could change. For the better. Liara looked down at the glowing platform beneath them. The water dripping from her armor pooled at her feet. She knelt slowly, letting her hand rest in the forming puddle. Our children drink only rationed water, she said quietly. We have never known rivers. Only tanks. Our crops struggle. Sometimes we must travel for days to find moisture. She looked up at Ethan with new resolve. We cannot destroy this. Then we find balance, Ethan said firmly. We adjust the system. Make the storms gentle, controlled. Liara nodded. Tell me what to do. They spent the next hour studying the interface. Ethan explained the basic controls and Liara memorized them quickly despite her unfamiliarity. She was focused, intelligent, eager to understand. Together they navigated menus, selecting rainfall distribution, reducing wind intensity, setting timed cycles instead of random bursts. At one point, the screen displayed 2 hand symbols on one humanoid, one Thalan-like dual confirmation, Ethan muttered. It wants both a human and a native inhabitant to approve final activation. Liara placed her hand on the Thalan symbol. Ethan pressed his hand on the human one. The screen blinked. Combined authorization accepted. Climate stabilization engaged. For a moment the cavern went silent. Even the humming softened as if the machine had sighed in relief. Then a low, steady tone began to play, calm, rhythmic, almost like a song. Liara looked up. Is it singing? Ethan smiled. In a way. It's acknowledging the update. Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind them. Liara! They turned to see the Thalan warriors standing at the entrance of the cavern. Their eyes were wide, weapons lowered. Rain dripped from their armor, forming small puddles on the cavern floor. The leader, a broad-shouldered warrior with stern eyes, approached slowly. What have you done? He asked. Liara stepped forward confidently. We have awakened the sky, but we have also guided it. The leader stared at Ethan. You worked with him? Yes, Liara said firmly. He did not break the sky. He healed it. The warriors exchanged glances, uncertain. Some were afraid. Others looked in awe at the glowing platform beneath them. Ethan stepped forward cautiously. I'm not here as a conqueror or prophet. I came to learn, and I want to help. The leader studied him for a long moment. Finally, he lowered his weapon. The rain? Will it destroy us? Ethan shook his head. Not anymore. It will feed the land, slowly, carefully. The leader looked at Liara. And you will watch over it? Liara nodded. Yes, as Skywarden, the title hung in the air. Ethan could tell it meant something important. The other warriors bowed their heads slightly. Liara turned to Ethan. And you? Ethan smiled softly. I'll be your guide. If you'll have me. Liara extended her hand. Ethan shook it. Her hand was cool from the rain, firm with purpose. They walked back toward the surface, followed by the warriors. The storm above had softened. The thunder was distant now, more like a heartbeat than a warning. Rain fell gently, forming streams that flowed between the rocks. Some Thalans reached out to catch droplets in their hands. Others knelt and let the water fall across their faces. Ethan stood beside Liara at the edge of the cliff overlooking the valley. The land below shimmered with wetness, tiny glints of light reflecting off newborn puddles. Plants that had long been dormant began to unfurl slightly, as if remembering what life once felt like. Liara watched in silence. Her silver skin glistened softly. Our world is changing, she said quietly. For the better, Ethan replied. She looked at him. Do all humans speak words with such certainty? He chuckled. Only when we need to. Liara studied him for a moment, then nodded. Then let it be known. This world will remember the human who brought the sky to life. Ethan shook his head gently. We brought it together. Liara smiled faintly. She raised her hand, catching falling droplets in her palm. She stared at them, mesmerized. The water pooled and overflowed between her fingers. Our ancestors wrote stories of a time when the sky would weep for joy, she said softly. I always thought they spoke in riddles. Maybe they did, Ethan said. Maybe some riddles are meant to be lived, not solved. They stood in silence for a while, watching as more Thalans emerged from the settlement below, stepping into the rain with wide eyes. Some laughed. Some cried. Children ran into the open, spinning in circles with delight. Liara looked at Ethan one more time. You came here alone. Now you are not, Ethan nodded. Neither are you. The storm faded slowly into a quiet drizzle. The ground breathed. The air smelled fresh. Varos 9, the planet that had never known rain, now knew its first. And somewhere beneath the surface the machine continued its song, no longer awakening. Ethan had never imagined he would leave his quiet station, but now he was sitting inside a sleek alien shuttle beside Lyra, who flew the ship with calm hands and confident eyes. The cockpit glowed with soft blue lights and strange symbols flickered across the dashboard. Ethan didn't understand most of it, but Lyra seemed to know exactly what she was doing. She glanced at him often as if making sure he was still there. Every time their eyes met, she gave a small, reassuring smile, like she was silently saying, "You are safe with me." The ship lifted smoothly into space, leaving the frozen moon behind. Ethan looked out through the glass panel and watched the familiar fuel station grow smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely into the darkness. For years, that lonely station had been his entire world. Now it looked like nothing more than a forgotten dot in the distance. He felt both fear and excitement in his chest. He had fixed hundreds of ships, but he had never truly traveled in one. Lyra didn't speak much, but her gestures were gentle. She handed him a soft blanket when she noticed him shivering. She offered him food cubes that tasted strange but not unpleasant. When he tried to thank her, she only nodded and said, "Mate must be strong." Ethan almost choked on his food cube, but Lyra remained serious. Hours passed in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. The quiet hum of the engine and the soft glow of the stars outside made everything feel peaceful. Ethan's thoughts drifted. He wondered where Lyra was taking him. Was he really ready for this? He didn't even know her full story. Why were pirates chasing her? What kind of world was she from? Would they accept a human? He stole a glance at her. She was completely focused on flying, her eyes sharp and bright. She looked fearless. Perhaps she had already decided her path and he was now part of it. Suddenly, an alarm beeped. Lyra's calm expression shifted to concern. She pressed a few buttons and a small screen lit up with warning symbols. Ethan leaned closer. Is something wrong? Lyra hesitated, then spoke slowly. Pirate trail. They follow us. Ethan's heart sank. They weren't safe yet. Lyra tightened her grip on the controls. The ship sped up, stars stretching into long lines as they entered faster travel. The beeping stopped, but both of them stayed alert. Ethan looked at her seriously. Why are they after you? I want to know. Lyra stayed silent for a long moment. Then she spoke in a soft voice. I carry data, important, from my world. Pirates want to sell it. What kind of data? Cure, she said simply. Ethan's eyebrows rose. Cure for a disease? Lyra nodded. My world, many sick. Our scientists make cure. I carry to other colonies. Must deliver. But pirates attack. Want to sell cure to highest buyer. Ethan stared at her in shock. She wasn't just some traveler. She was carrying something incredibly important, something that could save lives. No wonder the pirates were desperate. No wonder she was determined. He felt guilt rise inside him. When she first arrived, he had only seen her as an injured girl who needed help. He hadn't realized the weight she was carrying. He looked at her with new respect. We'll get it there, he said firmly. Lyra looked at him with surprise. We? Ethan smiled weakly. Well, I'm already here, aren't I? Lyra's expression softened. She didn't say anything, but her posture relaxed. Something unspoken passed between them. The ship continued its journey through the dark sea of stars. After hours of travel, Lyra finally slowed the ship and guided it toward a small hidden planet covered in silver forests and glowing mist. Ethan had never seen anything like it. The trees sparkled like crystal and the rivers shimmered like melted glass. Home, Lyra said quietly. They landed near a large structure built into the side of a glowing cliff. Several alien figures emerged, all with similar blue skin and silver eyes. They wore robes decorated with strange symbols. When they saw Lyra step out, they rushed forward, speaking quickly in their native language. Lyra greeted them. placing her hands on their shoulders in a respectful gesture. Ethan stood awkwardly at the ship's ramp, unsure of what to do. The aliens noticed him and stared curiously. Lyra turned to them and spoke something in her language, then pointed to Ethan. One of the elders stepped forward. His eyes were sharp but kind. He looked at Ethan from head to toe, as if trying to understand him. Then he spoke in broken English. "You help Lyra?" Ethan nodded. "I repaired her ship, and I helped fight pirates." The elder stared at him for a moment longer. Then unexpectedly he smiled. He reached forward and gently touched Ethan's forehead, the same gesture Lyra had done. "Then you are friend," the elder said. Ethan let out a breath of relief. Lyra stood beside him, looking pleased. She turned to the elder and spoke quickly. The elder's eyes widened. Then he looked back at Ethan with surprise. "What did she say?" Ethan asked cautiously. The elder replied slowly. "She say, you are her chosen mate." Ethan nearly stumbled. He glanced at Lyra, who was watching him with a calm but hopeful expression. The aliens around them whispered in surprise. Some looked excited. Others looked confused. Ethan felt his face turn red. He raised his hands in panic. I'm not sure if..." But before he could speak further, another alarm blared from the structure. Lyra instantly tensed. The elder turned and shouted to the others. Ethan looked around in confusion. "What's happening?" Lyra grabbed his arm. "Pirates find planet. They come again." Ethan couldn't believe it. The pirates had tracked them all the way here. Alien guards ran to activate defense systems. Energy shields rose around the base. Lyra pulled Ethan behind a structure and handed him a strange weapon. It was shaped like a small rod, glowing faintly. He turned it over in his hands. "How do I use this?" he asked. Lyra stepped close and placed her hands over his, guiding his grip. Her voice was calm. "Aim, press, do not shake." He nodded, trying to steady himself. The ground rumbled as pirate ships descended from the sky, their engines roaring. They landed with force, sending waves of dust and light across the ground. The doors opened and armored figures emerged, armed with blasters and energy whips. The aliens formed a defensive line. Lyra stood at the front, her energy gauntlet glowing brightly. Ethan stood beside her, heart pounding. He had never been in a real battle, but he remembered the fear in Lyra's eyes when she talked about her sick people. He remembered the moment she placed her forehead on his, trusting him without hesitation. He took a deep breath. The pirates advanced. Ethan raised his weapon and fired. A beam of light shot out, hitting one of the pirates in the armor and knocking him back. Lyra moved swiftly, blocking attacks with her energy shield and striking with precise blasts. She fought like a storm, graceful but fierce. Ethan stayed close, copying her movements as best as he could. When one pirate tried to flank her, Ethan tackled him from the side using his plasma cutter like a club. The pirate dropped his weapon and fled. The aliens cheered, gaining courage. The battle grew intense, but slowly the pirates began to retreat, overwhelmed by the united defense. Their leader shouted angrily and ordered a full withdrawal. The ships lifted off and vanished into the clouds. Silence returned. The aliens cheered, raising their hands in victory. Ethan collapsed to his knees, exhausted and shaking. Lyra knelt beside him and placed her forehead against his again. This time, Ethan didn't pull back. He closed his eyes and let the warmth of her touch calm him. "You fight for me," she whispered. 3 times. Ethan laughed weakly. "Yeah, I guess I did." She looked into his eyes with unwavering certainty. "Then human way is wrong. My way is right. You are my mate." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. He thought about his old life, his lonely station, his quiet days fixing machines with no one to talk to. Then he looked at Lyra, who had brought chaos, danger, and something else he had never expected. Purpose. He took a slow breath. "All right," he said softly. "I'll stay. I'll go where you go." Lyra's eyes brightened like stars. She gently took his hand and stood up, helping him to his feet. The other aliens watched with smiles and cheers. Ethan looked around at the glowing world, at the people who had accepted him without hesitation, and at the girl who had chosen him not for his strength, but for his kindness. For the first time in his life, he felt truly chosen, and this time he chose back.